Good morning, everybody. This is G. Wade, and I'm the NASA CSBG Program Chair representing the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. I just want to say good morning, good May morning, and just want to remind everybody to please mute your phone because we will not have people muted, but do place us on hold. And if you want to speak, just remember to unmute. Before we get started this morning, I'm going to call out the states by the name, and if you would just indicate that you're on. And we will also call, if there are states from regions 4 and 5 who are on the call, would you please indicate your attendance after I finish the roll call? That would be great. So start with region 1 is Connecticut, fine. Delaware, District of Columbia,
Here.
Thank you. Maryland, okay, New Hampshire, New Jersey, New York.
New York is here.
Thank you. Pennsylvania.
That's here.
Thank you. Rhode Island, Vermont, Region 2, Alabama, Florida, Georgia, Kentucky,
Kentucky's here.
Thank you. Mississippi, North Carolina, Puerto, South Carolina, Tennessee, Virginia.
Tennessee's here.
Oh, thank you. Virginia, Virginia. 3 is Arkansas.
Arkansas here.
Thank you. Iowa.
Yeah, Iowa.
Oh, thank you, Bill. Kansas, Louisiana, Missouri, Nevada, New Mexico.
Mexico is here.
Thank you. Oklahoma.
Oklahoma's here.
Texas, Virgin Islands. Are there any representatives from Region 4 or Region 5?
From Dakota.
We repeat, please. Okay. Anybody else?
South Dakota.
California.
California, and who else?
Illinois.
Illinois. Anybody else?
Dakota.
Okay, and then I heard somebody else.
Hey, Dee, Tony from Louisiana.
Okay, Louisiana. Okay. All right.
Lisa, I'm not sure you got that. Kathy's on from South Dakota as well.
Yes, I did get South Dakota, yes. And I'll just do another quick round before we exit off, just make sure we, if people have joined later. So,
This is Jamie Maine. I'm joining from the Northern New England CAP conference that's going on, so I don't know if any other state from Region 1 made it to this conference, but that might be the reason for absence.
oh, okay, Northern New England is having theirs? Okay, all right.
This is on the phone, though. Good morning.
Good morning. The Cassandra Cassian from Connecticut as well.
Okay, great. All right, awesome. Then I'm going to just review real quickly what our agenda will be, but before I also want to just state that if you have a question or would like to make a comment, please identify yourself by name and state, and you can either ask it verbally or send the question through the chat feature. So today we will be covering a fairly robust agenda. We're going to have our board update of state office administrators, update from our data task force. We'll be covering the CSBG state plan comment process, as well as the CSBG annual report update. and the CSBG National IS report update. We'll be covering state management resources, the CAA board training needs, organizational standards webinars. We'll be touching base on the executive order communication that came out, the Dear Colleague Federal Accountability Measures communication. We'll be talking about the State Office Roma Professional Peer Group. Then we'll go into talk about the upcoming September training conference, and then we'll close out with the 2018 meeting schedule. I do want to just take a moment to welcome Gayla Delgado from New Mexico, as well as Allison Williams-Helm from Colorado. And we will now pass it over. Is Chris on the line?
Yep, I'm on the line.
Oh, great, Chris. I'm going to pass it over to you so you can give us some updates around the data task force.
Wonderful. My name is Chris Shano. I am the co-chair for the Data Task Force, and we've done a lot in the spring here to meet. I go to the next slide. I'll give you a quick update. We've met as a task force on a webinar on March 29th and has kind of brought the groups together. We refocused and we started to look at our subcommittee work that we're doing. We're planning to meet in D.C. on August 8th and 9th in person to talk about the subcommittee work that we're working on. The subcommittee will be meeting 2 times prior to August, and we're really focusing in on some future deliverables. Looking at a data dictionary to have a draft ready for us to look at and then make that available to the network. Our other committee is looking at an RFP process for system procurement. I'm on the IT committee, and that was a really great conversation we had last week, and we're putting a lot of resources together for you in this area of system integration, how to procure those services. And then the beta testing on Module 2 and 4, Smart Forms, our committees are working on that for you to make sure that we get all the bugs if we see any bugs, and really look for some clarity in those Smart Forms. So when you get them, it's an easy process for you to use. Nice.
Chris, I have a question. This is Steve of Massachusetts.
Sure.
I know here about the smart forms, but what about those states who won't be using smart forms? Is there testing around the other ways of the linkages for getting the information over?
Oh, that's a really good question. That's something that Katie and Jackie at NASCAP can maybe comment on, but something that we can take a look at for sure. I think Katie and Jackie are on the line.
Yeah, I can jump in quickly on that, and we're going to be talking about it a little bit later, but we aren't to the testing phase yet. The other option is for states to do a direct transfer from their databases directly to OLDC, and we're in development on that.
Okay, all right, great, thank you.
Yeah, it's something the Data Task Force is interested in, and we want to see how that process works out, and we want to make sure it goes smoothly.
Okay.
So very interested. And it's a 2-step forward and 10-step back process usually with IT. So hopefully we can get a lot of the bugs out before we actually engage in it. This slide here is called Others Indicators. We're working on, NASCAP is working on learning more about what other indicators have been approved in the states. Either at the local level or at the state level, because those are important indicators for us to identify. We're seeing sometimes they are services and sometimes they're outcomes, and there's also confusions around the outcomes as far as other indicators. So knowing what that is, how that's happening in the states is really important to the Data Task Force as we look at putting apples and apples together and rather than commingling some of these data pieces. The information will be compiled and sent to the Data Task Force for us to evaluate. We're very excited about that information coming to us. If you can use this link here to help us on a short survey, we were really encouraging you to do that so we can get the information to review. But know that we're looking at it, and we'll be reporting more in the future on this area. So thank you much.
I believe this is Lisa, and I believe the NASAs might resend out that link to everybody because they had previously issued it, but I'm not sure if we were maybe all caught up with the IS survey stuff. So they're going to issue that.
Yeah, that would be great if we can get that back out to the states so we can get more information. This next slide is the submission form that you will need to fill out. So it's a really easy process. It looks like just some quick questions. You can type in and how many? Is there a few more slides on this, or is just this? Okay, so real easy. And if we can get the link out, I know the states would be encouraged to fill that out.
This is Jay. I just wanted to add in. Thanks, Deetsa and Chris, for doing this. But yes, we did send out the initial link in a constant contact, this link for the other indicators in the constant contact where we sent the recording for our last regional call, which was in March. And maybe it wasn't the best way to send it to all of you because I don't think we've gotten responses yet. So we will make sure we send it in its own separate constant contact to all of you, and I may also just send an email directly with a link as well. But we are asking you, as Chris said, to please complete it and send it to us as soon as you can. It's a pretty easy form to complete.
Yeah, thank you.
I believe that, Jackie, you'll be updating us on the CSBG state plan updates and webinars.
Yes. So actually we have a meeting with OCS tomorrow to give us some more information. But what we do know right now is testing of OLDC will begin in June. And we did let us know that the quote-unquote business rules she's already developed for the Grant Solutions team. And they will do the build-out, obviously, of OLDC to has all the proper changes that's made in the state plan. And so she'll let us know when that's going to be completed. And then, as I said, testing will be happening in June. But we do have the Word format of the revised 2019 state plan, which I know you all have seen the Word format, and it's on our website. That was based on the comments after the 60-day or that's based on the feedback after the 60-day comment period. So that Word document is what changes that OCS made after everybody gave their comments during that first time period. So that is on our website, and there's the link there. And then, so as we find out more from OCS, we'll be sure to update all of you, as I'm sure they will as well. And I just wanted to draw your attention, has been our Director's Digest, but these are the upcoming webinars for all of you to attend. So the links have been, yes, and here they are here as well. So there's one on June 6th, another one on submitting the plan on June 20th, and then submitting the SF424M on June 21st. So if you want to attend the webinars, make sure you go ahead and register for them.
Thank you. Can't believe you're up next on the report.
All right, thank you, Deetsa. So we're just going to give you an update on the annual report. As you can see on your screen, we're talking about when the instruction manuals were released. We released Module 2 on February 2nd, Module 4 on February 21st, Module 3 on April 24th. I do take a note about the Module 3 manual that it has a companion document with it. So you go to our website and you pull down the Module 3 manual. If you look right below the link where you're pulling down that manual, there's a companion document that contains examples for each indicator, outlining what types of programs or outcomes you might report in each indicator. So that is there for you. Also on that web page where you go pull down the manuals is a form to provide feedback, and it's a Google form. So if you have any questions, comments, any type of feedback at all, we welcome all of that, and ask that you go to that Google form and submit it to us that way. Next slide, please. Also, in talking about Module 3, community level work, Jackie and I are putting together a community level pilot project because we want to learn more about what's happening in states with community level work. We know that a lot of states included community initiative status form in documents such as their community action plan. And so maybe you already have information about community level work that's occurring in your state. So we want to work with a small number of you all to review community initiative status forms before they're submitted to OCS in March of 2019. So if any state offices, we have 2 already that have contacted us, but if anyone else on this call is interested in being a part of this pilot project, please let Jackie or myself know, and we will send you this state office interest form to complete, to tell us a little bit more about the work that's occurring in your state and why you might want to be a part of this pilot, and just some basic information. And to the next slide, as we started talking briefly about earlier, just updating you on what's happening with data collection and reporting for FY18 with the new annual report data. We are still working on smart forms for modules 2 through 4. We've got a pretty solid module 2 prototype that we will be pushing out to a subcommittee of the data task force for input and testing. We are still in the process of building the module 4 smart form. We've already sought a little bit of input on that, and we'll certainly be seeking a lot more input before we finalize that document. And then, of course, we'll be working on the Module 3 Smart Form. The idea with the Smart Forms is that state offices would collect them from their local agencies and upload them into OLDC. There is also the option that I mentioned earlier that we're also in the process of developing, where state offices who have data systems can direct transfer from that system to OLDC to get the data into OLDC. And in those cases, they wouldn't have to use a smart form. The smart forms are the baseline collection and reporting mechanism. They will be free and they will be available to everyone in the network. Our planning, everyone is pretty aware that we have the Excel versions of modules 2 through 4 on our website, so please use those in your planning process. There are 2 options for reporting module 3, a complete and partial submission for year 1. OCS sent a Dear Colleague letter out about that. NASCAS did a webinar a few weeks ago, and I don't believe it's posted on our website, but I believe we sent that out in the Director's Digest. And if anyone's interested in obtaining that, just contact Jackie or myself and we can send that to you. We will keep you informed about data collection as we have more information. Yep, no, you can go to the next slide. Thank you. Last piece I want to update you all about in terms of data is the release of the CSBG National Report. This used to be called the CSBG Annual Report. Because it had the new OMB approved annual report, we changed the name of this document to the FFY 2016 CSBG National Performance Update. So that is located on our website. It is also at the bottom of every Director's Digest that we send out. We have included narratives from Connecticut, Colorado, Hawaii, Iowa, Indiana, Oklahoma, South Carolina, Maryland, Minnesota, and Vermont. And the one thing I do want to highlight in here for folks is we have pretty extensive amounts of data included in the appendix tables. So if you want to know, for example, something like which states receive Head Start funding and how much, that information is actually in this document. So there's for your use. Please use it. If you have any questions, just give us a call. I believe I'm going to turn it back over to Jackie.
Okay, yeah, thank you, Katie. Does anybody have any questions before we move forward? Okay, so what I'm going to talk about here briefly is our state management resources, and this is just sort of an FYI or just a reminder, I guess, because sometimes I think we all know about this information, and then in talking to some of you, I find out we don't, or you don't know of all the resources that are available on our website. So I'm just drawing your attention specifically today to the state management resources. So these three, and you can see that's a picture of our NASCAS website. You go to CSBG, and then you can see the arrow where it talks under performance management. It says state office, resources, and tools. I barely read that. So the three most recent documents that are there that we did share at the NASCAS conference in February, our policy, CSBG Policies and Procedures Manual Guide. So this is really a guide that talks about state offices and what you could include in your policies and procedures manual. There was a work group of about 7 states, I believe, that got together last, it would have been fall and winter, and put together this guide. So we talked about it at the NASCAS conference, as I said, and we went over it. Please take a look at it. If you have any information that you'd like to add or share, then please let me know. It's something that is a living, breathing document, so we can always update it. So if you have feedback, please share it with me. Another document that we talked about at the conference as well is the state management calendar. This is listed on the website as both a PDF, but there's also the Excel version. So you can go in and make changes in it. It's really a template for you to use. So it lists the major activities and responsibilities of a state office, and and in a calendar format. So you your state plan development process in say March, and then it gives a timeline of all the activities that happen until it gets submitted to OCS. But as I said, it's an Excel document, so you can start with what's there and then make modifications and changes based on, what happens in your state or your state timelines as well. Another thing that we created and talked about it at the conference was acronyms and definitions, because oftentimes we realize that we are saying we're using acronyms that not everybody knows, and we always assume that they do. So we actually took this, we kind of stole it, so to speak, with blessings from Cap Law, and because they created one about a year ago, and then we expanded on it and made it more, I think, specific to state offices. So that acronyms and definitions is also on the website. 3 most recent documents. When we move to the next slide, you'll see other documents that we have that you may be more familiar with. We, of course, have our CSBG monitoring standards, which includes our principles and practices. That was updated in, it says September of 17, so that was relatively recently updated. And we do look at these documents and make sure that as things in our network change, that we update the documents. We have the CSBG self-assessment tool. I know that a couple of the state offices talked about it at our conference and have used it to prepare themselves for OCS assessment visits, but that's also on the tool and we are on the website, and we also updated that relatively recently because when it was developed, which was several years ago, it didn't obviously include the the performance management framework and organizational standards and state and federal accountability measures. So that's been updated to include all of that. And then the last thing I want to bring to your attention is the checklist for monitoring community needs assessments. We created that about maybe a year ago, a little bit more than that, and that's really for monitors at state offices to be, when you're looking at community needs assessments that you receive from your agencies, is to be able to say, how of a comprehensive and complete needs assessment is it? So it's really based around the organizational standards and expands on what should be included in a community needs assessment. And it really is a checklist where there's a lot of information provided, but you can actually go through and use it as a checklist. So those are the 6 tools that I wanted to share with you that are there now on our website, and we will be continuing to develop tools for all of you. But please, if you have anything in mind that you say, well, I wish NASCAS would do X, Y, Z for us because that would be really helpful, then please let Katie and myself know, and we certainly can take that under consideration. And I know all of you know that I call you, we'll probably, whenever we want to create a tool, we obviously do it with some of you, or at least a small group of you, to help us do that. And then so you may hear from me as we need, or as you give us more ideas. Do you have any questions about that? Okay, why don't we move on to the next agenda item? Okay, and remember, if you think of anything, you can just ask us, or you can put it in the chat window. And I see that Doug from Kansas joined us. Thanks you're able to join us, Doug. Okay, Correction Agency Board Training Needs. So I want to have a brief conversation with all of you. And let's talk a little bit about this. So this originated from the regional initiatives. As most of you probably know, some of you have been involved. Each of the regions are doing a regional initiative once in the next over the next 3 years, starting actually last year. We're in the 2nd year. And a regional initiative is all it is a meeting, but it's in the terminology in the grant is regional initiative. So region 4A, let me see, 4A, 6, 7, 8, and 1, those regions have already had their regional meeting. And for most of those regions, what was been sort of high priority need areas, because basically the state offices and state associations get together, and based on the training and technical assistance plan that was submitted to OCS, we look at what were the high training and technical assistance needs within the states, and is there any way that we could tackle some of those training needs at a regional level. So one of the things that's sort of risen through to the top in most of the regional meetings has been community action board training. So what we've heard is that right now there are multiple and different approaches to board training, and not only that, but lots and lots of resources out there, and where are they and how do we access them? So what the Community Action Partnership, based on the feedback that they were receiving, is that they've enlisted CAP Law to help develop a guide used by state associations as well as state offices in helping doing board training for community action agencies. And of course, depending on your state office, you may do more or less board training as state monitors, and or you may that may be something that your state association is more engaged in. But one of the things CAP Law is going to do is create I say clear curriculum here for board training, but it's like at this point they might be putting together a PowerPoint presentation that could be actually chunked out into pieces, but that is very comprehensive, that goes through, the rules and basically the roles and responsibilities, I should say, of a board member. And it could be something that, you could spend 10 minutes on this piece with the board and 20 minutes on that piece. And like I said, containing topics and issues that could or should be addressed when you're thinking about doing comprehensive board training. And then also they would create an annotated bibliography that would have all of the resources that are available, would list or have them. Now, if I want to say it says all in one place, but maybe not all in one place, but at least have links so that we would know all of the resources that are currently available. So while CAP Law is working on this, and this is still work in progress, and they expect to probably have a finished product at the end of this federal fiscal year, which would be at the end of September, I wanted to have the opportunity to talk to all of you about any suggestions that you have for content and that you think that cap law should be including in this resource that would be important for community action agency boards to know, and that would be useful for state offices or state associations that do that training?
I think this is Deetha from Massachusetts. I think that one of the things we're finding is, well, there's a couple of things. But one is around the democratic selection process. And although you can have a variety, what we're finding is that I believe cap law has also given a lot of guidance that, you know, agencies can put like lists of all varieties. But when we go out to monitor, we're trying to figure out, well, which one is your preferred? And I think that's been a challenge for us. And this might be something that gets discussed around the organizational standards webinars about what some of the but I also believe that there might be, it might help to offer some clarity around true democratic selection process for the low-income consumer sector.
Yes.
Okay. Right. Good. I'll mention that. I understand what you're saying. Okay.
The next question I guess I have is, is the intent that the agency does, when I say self, meaning that you might have somebody like the executive director might actually do the board training, and they have their own. I mean, we're trying to encourage using some of the other resources or people that come in, because we get a lot of times, our boards know, they get trained and they know, they sit on other boards, and I guess that's a bigger question in terms of what's the real true intent when we say the CAA board training needs. So we end up getting into some of the conversations with agencies that don't really have a true training curriculum per se.
I think that's sort of the intent of this, is to come up with some sort of training curriculum saying that these are the topics that could and should be discussed with the Community Action Board, and be able to have it available in, like I said, kind of pieces, or do like a full day training. So I believe that's the intent of this.
And be able to document it in minutes so that we can see that actually, in fact, did occur.
Yes, absolutely.
All right.
Jackie, this is Chris.
Yep.
Hi. Just a couple of comments. I'm really pleased that we're looking at this issue. In Michigan, we have 29 community action agencies, and I would say almost 11 of those agencies have new executive directors. And so training and assistance to helping the executive director know and understand how to relate to the board and what they should know is a little twist on what you're kind of talking about today, is one area that would help. And then we're also seeing in our state, boards are maybe more dysfunctional, and not all of them, but there's dysfunction in boards. And they just need help on what, interaction among board members and how to be productive and understanding their roles and responsibilities. So it's going back to the basics, and the interaction with the new ED and how they can help support the board. So real basic stuff all the way down to ROMA and some of the piece in the framework that we operate under is more the high-level training. So we see it across the board, from real basic needs to advanced needs board training.
I agree. Also, in terms of how they should engage around committees, too.
Okay. All right, I'm getting all this down. Okay, I agree, Chris, and I think we talked about this, or cap law was on the last RPIC call with the association leads, and they mentioned that, too, around the new ED, because a lot of them are seeing the things, obviously, at the associations, that there's lots of new EDs come in, and that is in and of itself a whole, part or piece of it. So absolutely, and I like the idea of committees and basic to advanced. Okay, so I can share all of that with Law and Eleanor and Allison, and I see someone also mentioned when Deidre you were talking about democratic selection process. Someone indicated that democratic selection process for public entities seems more problematic since acting on behalf of the city and not the county in which the city resides. So I could talk about that too, and mention that. And then there was another comment about willing to do a video series that builds an entire board training over the course of 1 year. I don't know. I really don't know how this is all going to look when it rolls out. So I don't know when we're thinking of a comprehensive board training and being able to chunk it out. Would it be something that could happen over the course of the year? So it's like is how you could start with this first and then do this second and third and fourth. So I'm not sure, but I could get more information about that.
Hi, Keith. This is. Oh, sorry.
No, and the only thing I wanted to add is application activities, and we did talk about that on the RPIC call, so glad you brought that up, and making it so that the trainings are interactive. And I think CapLaw actually already does a really good job with that now when they do board trainings. They always have some piece that's, that's an activity or interactive that makes it kind of more real and brings it home. So we did talk about making sure to integrate that as well.
Leslie from California. I think one of the issues that we struggle with is board vacancies. So having some input from CapLaw on the importance of a board maintaining a full board to ensure that there's participation and engagement from all sectors of the tripartite board. And then what is the consideration or what is the terminology or definition around a long board vacancy? Is it 3 months? Is it 6 months? Some information and guidance around that, because we struggle with that in terms of monitoring.
That's interesting. This is Deidre from Massachusetts that you bring that up, because we have often found, we're hearing that OCS in doing their state monitoring, they'll be also, at least at the last conference, be looking at how states follow up with the boards on their vacancies, which I thought was kind of interesting. So, we had initially when we did our triennial on-site, if there was a vacancy in comparison to what they said their bylaws were, we would cite them as not met, and then we like to say, okay, it could be partially met because they could still be in the process. The problem that we're having is, the timeliness of in conjunction to when the board vacancies in our state, we expanded it from the 90 days to giving them 6 months because the network really pushed around us giving them more time. But we still have to have a way to document it, and CapLaw is going to be on a call with myself and an agency, because apparently, I don't know what CapLaw's feeling is, but they apparently have communicated something to this agency, and so I'm interested to hear what the staff attorney is going to say, because we ID'd that the agency was partially compliant. They still had a vacancy, but it was a vacancy that was still under the time frame in which they can complete. It's just we needed to have a way to assure that that agency was going to be, or any agency was going to be moving to get the vacancy filled without having to, without us finding out at either a meeting attendance or when we're getting ready to do a monitoring, and then they go rushing to fill it, because we find that the vacancies tend to stay open a long time. So there seems to be an issue with them even being ID'd that, why, they can't control vacancies to a certain extent. I don't know. I'll know more when I get off the phone tomorrow and seeing what CapLaw might be advising.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. And I agree too. Thanks for that, Leslie, with about board vacancies, because I think we've heard that as well. So I'll definitely talk about that with cap law, and then a couple other comments, not only maintaining full board, but also board size that is reasonable, manageable, and sustainable. Absolutely. Another comment about specific examples and best practices on democratic selection and on what board members should be looking for on training. So that connects with what you were saying, Dietz, about the democratic selection. And I think that was it. Yes.
Jackie, can you hear me? This is Stuart. I've been muted. I've been trying to say something. We actually have recently had an experience where a board member of one of our CAP agencies was accused of sexual harassment of a staff person. And so it, especially an issue that comes up more in the Me Too movement and era. So some sort of training on how to handle when board members act inappropriately or, or something along those lines. I'm not sure exactly how it would be framed, but that's something that was very recent.
All right. Thanks, Stuart. Okay.
It's Michelle Fields with Tennessee, and I would say that sexual harassment needs to also be included in how does a board handle allegations within the agency, and making sure that there's a due process to eliminate hostile work environments related to that.
Well. Okay. Thank you. Lots of good stuff to share with the CAP law. There was also fundraising with boards and how the board should think about their role, especially because of their tripartite board structure and then conflict of interest with very specific examples. So, okay, all right. So this is a lot of great stuff, information to share with CAP law. So I will do so. And if you think anything else, please let me know. And as we more information what this is going to, look like, I'll share that with you as well. Okay, great. Thank you all very much. That was helpful. And Sandra's webinar, I know Dita kind of referred to this a few minutes ago, but we as in the Community Action Partnership and NASCAS, we are doing a series of organizational standards webinars. Now, you'll see the dates there. Please attend at any one that fits into your schedule. We just put those together because, and to do it, just organize it. We said, okay, we're going to do 4. Let's do them across the time zones. But if you're in the Pacific time zone and May 25th does not work for you and you want to attend May 18th, please feel free. It really doesn't make any difference. And some astute person pointed out to me that May 25th is the Friday before Memorial Day weekend. I clearly need a new calendar because I was not even aware of that. That might be a very small meeting. But anyhow, go ahead and attend any one you like. So we will, we're not going to go through every 58 standard because that would take a day. But what we want to talk about is any standards that may be particularly challenging for you as state offices, both in terms of your interpretation there, does it require more interpretation or from you as staff at the state office, and or any standards that are particularly difficult or challenging around documentation. So right off the top of your heads, as we're sitting here now, is there any ones that come to you that you would like to make sure that we, that get brought up and talked about on the webinar?
This is Lisa. I know that a couple of the standards where they actually say the eligible entity has a process, is deemed as a process. What are you actually looking for? We typically will say, do you have a general statement in terms of how you go about collecting customer service is what we, feedbacks, for example. But it'd be interesting to hear other states or even community action partnership in terms of what they would consider appropriate documentation to support a process, quote unquote.
Okay, and I agree with that. I think that's what we've heard too as well. The ones that talk about process and exactly what does that look like and what documentation kind of, answer, I guess I should say. And then notice that someone did say 4.3. We know the infamous 4.3 is still problematic. So we'll be sure to discuss 4.3 where it talks about the use of aroma or person or whatever that language is. So we'll be talk about that. And then somebody else just said we would like to review the standards for the needs assessments. Okay, so I'll make sure we touch upon those too. And what else am I seeing? Then I know, okay. You know, and Laura from Texas saying that she has some interactive guides, PowerPoints and guides that have been helpful. So Laura, I have those. So actually, I can share those in our next Director's Digest because you sent them out to Region 6. So I do have those. So they might be helpful for other state office staff. So I'll only share those. And strategic planning, someone else commented. So needs assessment, strategic planning, the standards that talk about having at the agency having some sort of process, and 4.3. If you think of anything else, let me know. That's a good start. And then what I also ask is that you bring, and you think of those things that have been working well for you, because what we'd like also this, these webinars to be is, what have you found, around organizational standard 4.3 that's worked really well for your state, or what have you done in regard to those process standards and documentation or guidance to your agencies that have worked well. And Doug just said add 2.2, so standard 2.2. So be thinking about that too. So we can also have it as a sharing time between offices. Okay, and Matt has, for example, does needs assessment have qualitative data? Does one community meeting cover it? Okay, so
yeah,
good.
right,
Yep,
exactly.
Okay. Yep, get that. Okay. Oh, terrific. So we're hoping those will be good webinars that will provide you with some further information and some more clarity.
How long are you anticipating the webinars to be? Like an hour or an hour and a half?
We'll set them each up for an hour and a half. That doesn't necessarily mean we'll take all that time. And I think it'll kind of depend on some of them may be more well attended than others, and there may be more conversation than others. But we are planning to have them for an hour and a half for each of them.
Okay, thank you.
Jackie, Dita, this is Beverly. Perhaps I missed it. The registration, will that be on constant contact?
Yes, we've sent out. How many have we sent out, Muska?
Yes, we sent out 2 so far. I'll be sending one out again either today or tomorrow.
Okay. Thank you.
So thank you, Beverly. So we've sent out 2. We'll send out another one, as Muska said, today or tomorrow. So be on the lookout for it. And if you don't have them, if you didn't see the constant contact with a way to register, just let me know, and I can send you the link.
Okay.
Yep. Okay. So if you think of anything else, just feel free to email me, and we can definitely include it in the discussion.
Okay.
All right, so I'm going to turn it over to Katie just to do a brief update or just a brief draw your attention to the executive order.
Thanks, Jackie. On April 10th, President Trump signed an executive order called Reducing Poverty in America by Promoting Opportunity and Economic Mobility. This laid out 9 principles of economic mobility, for example, improving employment outcomes, addressing challenges for hard-to-employ populations, streamlining services to more effectively use taxpayer resources. It also called on federal agencies to consider how they do work, review all their regulations, guidance documentations, look at ways to, I guess, work better in a certain respect. We participated on a stakeholder call regarding that order with the Department of Health and Human Services, and we are just tracking the progress and outcomes, and we'll provide you updates as they happen. Okay. Yeah.
No, I was going to say, I think you have the next slide.
Oh, I'm sorry. I accidentally hit mute there for a second. I was talking. Also released recently was a Dear Colleague letter sent by OCS on Tuesday, May 8th, informing us of their progress on federal accountability measures. They've got this great chart here that they've included with the Dear Colleague letter, a dashboard that they call it, that just outlines each accountability measure, their progress on it. They've improved in a lot of areas and are meeting their targets in general. So if you haven't seen that, that is in our Director's Digest still. And if you have need more information on the federal accountability measures or the executive order, just feel free to reach out to us. Any questions before we move on? Okay, Jackie.
Okay, great. Thanks, Katie. I'm really excited about this. I've been wanting to do it for a long time and finally got enough organized to be able to do it. So Katie and I, with a partnership with Barbara Mooney, are going to be creating a state office Roma professional peer group. So you will be getting, those of you who are our Roma trainers and or Roma implementers, so that's why we use the term Roma professional, because it's going to include both trainers and implementers. And we're going to get together for the first time on June 15th. So I haven't sent out the notice yet, but waiting to announce it here first before I do. I think the meeting is going to be a phone call, obviously, a conference call sometime in the afternoon on the 15th, but you'll be getting that information. So basically, the group will talk about the role of a Roma professional in the state office. What do you do? What is your role? How do you kind of live? How do you demonstrate being a Roma professional in your state office? One of the things that we also would like this group to do is help find the role of a Roma implementer in a community action agency. That has come up time and time again, interestingly enough, partially at our regional initiative meetings that we've had, specifically Region 1. We spent a long time talking about this a few weeks ago, but other places as well. So I'm a Roma implementer. I've just become a Roma implementer in my community action agency, and what does that mean? I think that, we as state office staff can talk a lot, think about what that means to us. Share what others are doing in state offices as Roma professionals. We also want this group to be able to create opportunities to get together at NASCAS conferences, which will sort of do that. But what we want to be able to do is all get together at breakfast and have a breakfast meeting, or we get together at lunch, or just make sure that every time that NASCAS has a conference or 2 conferences every year, that we provide an opportunity for Roma implementers and Roma trainers to connect. We're going to be working with Barbara Mooney to develop specific ideas for the Roma in-service agenda. Those of you Roma trainers, know that there is now 2 in-services per year, one in the spring and one in the fall. And I talked to Barbara about us as state office implementers and trainers is talk about, what we can add to the agenda and how we can, contribute our experience and expertise in the agenda that's already created or those topics that are already created, or do we want to add something to the agenda? And she was really thrilled about that. And as you see, the last thing on the slide is our first meeting is going to be June 15th. So these are just some of our ideas. So it's me, Katie, and Barbara will be leading it. But we really just want, so these are just some of our ideas for the first meeting, but it's really going to be owned, the group, and what we talk about is really going to be owned by all of you who are Roma professionals in your state offices, and you'll be determining the agenda. So these are just some ideas that we want to start with and think about and talk about. We could throw some of them out, we could keep some, and we could add new ones. I'm excited about this, so we'll be looking for further information.
This is Deetza. I'm not sure where this is placed, but we're getting some pushback in terms of those agencies where maybe they had an implementer, that person left, so they have a new person coming through, and the bottleneck that's occurring because they can't finish the final piece. And, I'm really confused about exactly how, what's actually being required. I mean, we have our state association who's coordinating it, but I asked them to copy the state around that. But I think we're getting complaints about, people not being very clear, or the issue that there isn't any opportunity to do something in order for them to finish out their assignment and actually get the implement certification. So I'm not sure where that gets fit into, but maybe trying to understand what the full cycle process is, when, how, and the whole 9 yards. And what do you if something is not happening?
Okay. This is Shirley. Are you referring to the implementers at the state level or the?
Oh, I mean at the CAA, but it could happen for a state if the state is having an issue trying to get somebody certified because they lost their initial implementer or trainer, whatever. I mean, I think some of it is maybe truly understanding, it would be great to have a visual as to what is required at any given step just to get your certification. Because if I remember, the implementer kind of came in as an afterthought when there was a lot of pushback, and then it seemed to have kind of morphed along the way, and now there are people who are ending their certification. You got to get recertified. There's a cost. You got to do something. It would be great to see one visual to say what happens, when you get it, what do you need to do after the certification expires, and the whole 9 yards. Who do you contact? The whole whole book.
Yep. All right, and that's a point well taken, I think. So maybe this group could think about how we communicate that with state offices in particular, and work with Barbara about communicating it with Community Action Agency staff, because there's a very clear process if you become a trainer and an implementer. But I think it's interesting that you use the word bottleneck, because there might be some places where it gets, what do I want to say? It doesn't happen as quickly for some people as it does with other people, and then it falls off, then it might be could potentially be problematic. And right, also, Deetza, that there's this certification process, because when you are a Roma trainer, you have to be recertified every so many years. So there is a recertification process. It's actually happening right now, which is probably why you're hearing about it. For those who are Roma trainers, you go through a recertification.
But isn't there a certification process? Is there a recertification for implementer or not?
At this point, I don't know the answer to that question, because there's so many Roma implementers that are brand new, because it didn't start until, what was it, the pilot was in 2016. So that was when we first had Roma implementers at both the state offices and the agencies. Not sure if they're up for recertification this soon in the process. But those are things that we could talk about with this group, and I think this group probably has a better understanding since they are Roma implementers and trainers, but it might be something that we take on as, well, we communicate that information with the broader network.
One reason I'm bringing it up is because it actually ties to when we have to go out and validate 4.3 as a state office as well.
Right, exactly.
Well,
so you need to have that information.
Yeah, I just want to make sure, since this is going to be a group of only people who are certified, the conversation about the issues in general need to not be just limited to this group, because do you see what I'm saying? Like the conversations about this, I'm sorry, this is Sarah from Vermont. The conversations about the challenges at the agency level around having people go through the certification or recertification process for implementer or trainer, that's a conversation that I don't want to just limit to a group of people who are certified.
This is a way, well, yeah, I see what you're saying, Sarah, but I'm wondering if this group can help sure that communication and that clarification gets out to the broader network.
I would think so.
Yeah, and I think there's ways that we can include input from other people as well in our conversations.
Yeah, right. But the point of this group is to have these trainers and implementers support each other and talk about what their role looks like within the state office.
Right.
So I think knowing that there's some miscommunication in the network around Roma implementers and Roma trainers and the certification, and it's important for state offices to know about the certification. And you're right, Disa, you need to know who's a certified trainer or not. So I think that, I agree with you, Sarah, that has to be perhaps a broader group than this. So I'll have to give some more thought about how we do that and that information with everybody.
Jack, this is Adrian from Illinois, and I'm currently doing the Roma implementer work. And as I through the process, you know, I was advised that basically I need to get material details from one of our community action agencies and kind of portfolio based on an agency. I really think that a discussion needs to take place on having a state office type track for the Roma implementer type program.
I would just ditto that, because I have staff here in California that are going through the process. In fact, we have an implementers meeting tomorrow, and that's been kind of the major feedback I've gotten, that they're having to pull information, you know, on an agency as well as looking at it from a state perspective. So I think there needs to be some discussion in and around, you know, the state's, you know, kind of implementer process.
Yep. I totally agree. This is Beverly. I was going to say the same thing. That's what my staff. That's if we call it a bottleneck. That's where we are now, because you know we have to get information from an agency.
Yeah, and you know the other challenge that I have with it is you know the agencies that I'm comfortable asking to share the information with or use their information because they gather it good. They already have Roma implementers and all that stuff, so I really don't learn anything by getting information from them. And the agencies that are underperforming agencies, the information they provide is so crummy that it's impossible to do a portfolio off of. I really think, to reiterate, that what we do at the state level as far as implementing Roma is different than what CA does at their level.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, so Adrian, so what you're suggesting is the portfolio that end piece would look different for state office staff than community action agency staff.
That's yes. I think the first the classroom training, the online training, all that was fine. I think all of that is relevant to both state and a community action agency type level, but it's in the creation of the portfolio that is different between the two.
I agree.
Yeah.
All right.
Jackie, this is Chris.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree with lots of the comments being said. It would be really wonderful. I know you're putting a group together for the implementers, and I think that's fabulous, and it should be. But maybe there's another group of people, like from state offices, to have this discussion. Could make that available. I think that would be great for us to share all our ideas about what it is at the state level that we're looking at when we do Roma.
Yeah.
You mean for just state, I don't mean just, but state office staff who aren't necessarily Roma professionals is what you're saying, Chris?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I thought about that for a long time, and I'm glad this conversation's coming up. And I think we learn a lot from each other. And this is probably not the right event for it, but if you could make that available, I think I would be interested in participating.
Okay. Suggestion. So we'll renege on that here.
Jackie, did you say the first meeting is going to be a conference call?
Yep.
Okay.
So meeting it should be in quotes. It's not. We're not going to be in person somewhere. It's going to be a conference call.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome. And someone had asked, is this going to be limited to people who maintain a certification? So yes, I mean that's the intent. So for this group here that you see on your slide, this particular group, not thinking about what Chris, or not considering what Chris had just talked about and others, but this group here, it would be specifically for those who are currently certified as a Roma trainer and or a Roma implementer. It works at the state.
Jen, this is Sarah from Vermont. I'm wondering what the purpose of that is, other than to reinforce the value of the certification. Because I think, to the point of some other people, states are doing the work around Roma training and Roma implementation without necessarily having certification or without having a certification that is of particular value. And it feels like a peer group that's sharing practices and helping to define these roles could benefit from being more than just limited to the people who have certification.
Shelley, can you hear me?
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, sorry. So I'm a certified Roma trainer, and just speaking kind of from the experience of that as a state office professional, it really does enhance your understanding and knowledge of what Roma curriculum is and how it works. And I encourage state office staff, if you're not certified and you are interested in all of these conversations, to pursue certification.
Well, that was one of the questions I wanted to ask NASIPs. Do we have an idea of how many states have an implementer or a trainer? Because that's also, I think, should be something we should probably find out.
Yeah, I do actually, Disa, and I don't have it off the top of my head, but I do have a list of all the states that have either an implementer or trainer. So yes, we do, and we know that. But like I said, I don't have that ready to give all of you now off the top of my head. Okay.
I think, this is Katie, I think this is great feedback that we've received, and this is something that, we can figure out how to get input from other folks as well, and what that looks like.
Yeah.
If there's a way that this group could share what they're doing or what they're learning with others. So, But yes. Okay, that was really good feedback. So thank you very much. This gives us food for thought. And if you have any other thoughts or comments or anything else you want to share, then please. Someone just said, I highly recommend obtaining Roma certification for state office staff. It truly helps to connect all the dots. So thank you for that. Okay, so moving on, Disa, I'm going to turn this over to you for our conference.
Yeah, thank you. So we are, as much as we're moving into summer, we have to also be thinking about our annual fall training conference that's going to be held on starting Monday, September 17th, and Tuesday with the orientation, I believe, and training, and then the official kickoff of the conference begins on Wednesday through Friday, September 21st. It will be in Bellevue, Washington. One of the things is we wanted to use this as an opportunity as we have, participants on this call to think about what are some topics. I know we've heard and received feedback during, I believe, when NASFS did receive their feedback on the last conference of things that really were working and all. And some of the topics that have come up are around mergers. We obviously just got off the topic about the role of the Roma professional offices. I see that there was WIO, but I'd be interested in hearing some folks what you would like to see. This is our opportunity to really engage, and I know that it really works well when we're hearing from our colleagues on certain things, even the challenges of things. So are there any topics that come to mind right now that you would like to have under consideration to be part of the training conference?
Quickly, it's Tuesday is the monitoring training, not the orientation training.
Okay, it's just the monitoring? All right, thank you. So I'd really like to ask if people, if you're not really getting anything right now, to think about it and shoot Jackie an email, copy myself, the Wooden Wade, and we'd like to use this and make this a conference that really is valuable to us as state professionals, that we can pull from one another, and even on those topics that might be challenging, to consider whether that's something that we could truly be able to hold. I know that we all tend to really like the round tables with some of the topics, and I think that in the past there's been we really like that format and maybe a little longer just to be able to wrap things up, but we'll be taking that under consideration. But at least if you can mark your calendars, September 17th through the 21st, the training conference will be in Bellevue, Washington. I would believe that do we have any idea when we'll start to get some link for actual registration process?
Yes, yeah, I believe it is going to be this week or next week. We're waiting for the website, and there were some build-outs that we needed to do, but I believe it's going to be very soon, as Cindy was telling me. Okay. So you should be looking for that.
And Jackie, we have a question to describe the monitoring training.
Oh, I didn't see that. Yes, the monitor training is going to be, as Janae just said, Monday and Tuesday, September 17th and 18th. And we are going to be reviewing, I can't remember all the topics now, but we're going to be doing the practices and principles of monitoring. We're going to be doing a fiscal piece as well with Kevin Mirren. We're going to be talking about the organizational standards. So if whoever asked that question, we do have a draft agenda, and if you're interested, then just wanting more, just send me an email, and then I can get you.
The purpose of monitoring training is for new monitors and those who've been around for a while to understand what the latest ideas about monitoring CSBG is about, covering all the topics that Jackie discussed, but also Roma-specific monitoring as well.
Okay.
Some recommendations to talk about community action plans, review them, how to enhance them, how to develop contact documents, what are their assessing community needs assessments.
I'm reading the agenda. Thank you.
I'm actually reading the question.
One area, this is Deetha, I'd like to see is how discussed is around connecting the community needs and strategic plan to the community action plan. How, a state should be really reviewing that, and what should we be looking for
Yes, and it's funny that I thought I was looking at the agenda because I see Matt's comment about community action plans, and that is on the agenda. So it's exactly that: community action plans, strategic plans, and community needs assessments. That is part of the monitor training. I can't remember whether it's Monday or Tuesday, but that's there. Part of the monitor training, and then I see we have another topic, a suggestion on how to handle the QIP process for monitoring. And then sharing strategies for delivering high quality, effective, and timely PTA, another topic.
Timely PTA.
These with you, Deetsa, but yes, okay. So those were the three so far come in.
Something that comes to mind, this is Leslie from California, is we're going through the designation process for a particular area in our state. And as we were developing our RFA to solicit an organization, the question kind of came up through our discussions about thriving community action agency. And do we have a definition, a universal definition of what a thriving community action agency is?
That in terms of like, should you get responses from the agencies and how a state would look to rank them?
Yeah.
Because I don't know if you can necessarily box it, say, because I also think it's really, we went through that process. And it's a combination of how they responded and putting all their information to your what was it, RFP?
Mm-hmm.
But also, being able to validate it, because sometimes it's the writer that's not really being effectively communicated. And I don't know, because it's a challenge. Cassie, you guys have gone through some process, haven't you, with designation and de-designation? Okay.
This is a question that we have been asked throughout the years in the network, and that we've tried to figure out if there was a way to talk about what thriving. We weren't able to really get a definition on thriving. There were conversations about, met all the standards, didn't have any findings or critical concerns and monitoring reports from all the funders, had a ratio of funding and programs versus, deficits and other things. But it gets really, really tricky.
Right.
So the network did back off of saying what thriving is, and then, there's that flip side of also questioning, what's at risk. So we all have kind of our barometers around each of these, but we don't have a standardized definition that I know of.
Hi, this is Chris, and we've had to go through the de-designation and designation process, and your question is really hard. But Jack, if you could send her maybe the STAR assessment, that might be helpful in identifying different components. And some language around what she's looking for to put the RFP together.
What is that called? What did you reference?
It's a risk assessment that in Michigan we use. It's called a STAR assessment, and it has different criteria that in different categories that we look at agencies when we identify risk. And so we have high risk and low risk. And if she were to look at the low risk, what that looks like, that might be helpful and what she's doing to put that document together.
Mm-hmm. It could this is Michelle in Tennessee. I would also like a copy of that.
See, I was going to say the same thing.
Yeah, and this is Stuart in Maryland. Chris, I actually sent you a couple emails about this. I would love to get a copy of that as well.
We can have it available for folks. That's good. Okay, and added on to that, it was my oversight that I wanted to include it in the slide deck, and I forgot. But through the CTAS grant, and I don't even remember what CTAS stands for, that partnership and the NASCAS worked on, which has now since ended, which provided training and technical assistance to a few throughout the 2 years of the project. But we enlisted Kevin Mirren to create a risk assessment tool for state offices that's a template risk assessment tool. So he did a programmatic tool, and he also did a financial tool. And he is going to discuss those tools on a webinar. And if you give me a minute, I'll let you know when it is. I just talked to him last week, and we scheduled it for sometime in June, June 28th at 2 p.m. Template for programmatic and financial risk assessments.
That sounds good.
Yeah, and we've heard loud and clear that that's what states have been asking for. So we went through it with Kevin last week. It's very, very comprehensive. So you'll be, but it's one of those things that it's a framework for all of you, and then you can pull out things that items that you may not think you need, and put in items that you think you would like. So if
I remember correctly, I think under super circular, because this whole risk assessment that we need to perform prior to setting our monitoring calendar,
Exactly. Yeah, right, as a part of the uniform guidance. Yeah. So I will be sending out that information too. And so you have not received that yet, as far as that, webinar link or description. So you'll be getting that, sometime this week. So
is that
for it?
That also be covered in the monitors training at the conference?
Yes, it is. I did talk to Kevin about that, and we don't have the exact day yet either, because he might have something else with weatherization. But so it'll be Monday or Tuesday. I don't know what day yet.
Okie dokie. Well, that's just a plug for those of us who may not be new, but that this is still a valued time to attend the monitors training on Monday and Tuesday, because it definitely sounds like with some of the performance framework that things have been adjusted, and that it would be a great opportunity as state professionals to actually jump on and attend the monitors training. So I'm just making that plug for September 17th and 18th.
So the webinar is the 24th, or was that the 28th of June?
28th, Michelle.
Okay, thanks.
Sarah, your voice. Yes, it's the 28th of June, 2 p.m. Eastern Time.
All right, thank you.
Welcome. That in for the folks this afternoon.
Okay. I believe, Jackie, you're up on the next slide.
Yes, and that is the NASCAS website. So it will be launched within the next couple of weeks. We are very, very, very happy to report to. We are also very, very happy that there will be a member portal with access to not only those peer-to-peer requests that we get and you get the information, but other tools and resources. So it's going to be a one-stop shop for, state office management resources and tools and materials. So we're populating that over time. So we're really happy to have that available to all of you. So, of course, when it's ready to be launched, you will get the emails and find out soon enough and see it when you get on our website.
Jackie, this is real quick. Is there going to be a way for members to actually post their own peer requests so we don't have to keep bothering you guys with those?
I don't know. That's a question. I haven't been that involved in the development of the website.
I believe that is part of it, as well as members being able to post their own materials. Like Chris could post her risk assessment material to that, but we'll verify and let you know.
Yeah, just an idea.
Yep. All right. Well, thank you, Jackie. I just want to move to the next slide. Just want to remind folks that when you're communicating to OCS, please always just kind of immediately copy CSBG states at acs.hhs.gov, because oftentimes your analyst or whoever you may be communicating might be on the road or attending, and we've been informed that by CCing this email, someone's constantly monitoring to ensure that we get timely responses. And the next slide, I just wanted to bring to your to everybody that the next regional call will be in July. We will not host one in June, and then follow up just before our fall conference. We'll have one in September and another one in November, and they'll both be held 11 and 2 p.m. to accommodate our various regions. And finally, is there anyone that would like to discuss, and we certainly have had some robust conversation, but bring up a topic that has not been touched upon, or bring or make a comment that has not been touched upon?
This is Janae. Really quickly, going back to submitting questions to OCS, if you're not hearing a response, please let NASCAS staff know as soon as possible. Please email Jackie. You can CC me as well. We've also told people that if you're not getting a response, just include us on the CCs, because we are meeting with OCS almost on a weekly basis, and we get prompt responses. We don't want you waiting for months at a time trying to get an answer. So please involve us as your membership association to advocate on your behalf.
That's great. So if I have not heard, does NASA see any? Okay. I guess we just hit the twilight zone. We might need to be wrapping this up, which is timely, unless someone has any further comments. Was there any state that joined during the course that they did not hear their state call that we can mark as attended?
Yes. District of Columbia.
Columbia, okay. Anybody else?
West Virginia.
Oh, great. West Virginia. Wonderful. Okay, well, I want to thank everybody for your time and attendance and your participation. We certainly had a robust agenda and really received some good input. Thank you again, and everybody enjoy the remainder of your day. Take care.
Thank you, Deepta.
All right, thank you. Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye.